another episode of Extraordinary Women Season 3. I have a very special guest with me today, someone super amazing, super cool. I don't mean to be biased, but, as a journalist myself, someone who's been in the broadcasting field myself, Miss Nekia Nichelle, entertainment reporter. How are you? Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me. So, just a little bit, please give everyone a background on yourself, where you're from, what you do, and how did you get into how did you get your foot in the door in the journalism industry? Because you and I both know it is not an easy field to be in, to get your foot in the door there. So, what is your story and how did you get involved with it?
Okay. So my story, I would say, is very non-traditional. It may be more leaning more towards a traditional way because we're getting out of the whole, as journalists, the whole thing is like intern somewhere and, you know, find a mentor and things of that nature. So I think a lot of people have gotten into the door by doing that, by interning, but I live in Chicago and I felt that Chicago, as big as it is and as much entertainment that they have here, I found it a little surprising that like Chicago doesn't have more variety of lifestyle or entertainment shows here. That's specifically for that. Most of their shows are newsy, very commercial here, but we have, plays that go on here. There's a lot of entertainment. Lollapalooza happens. Why don't we have more entertainment outlets? So I was frustrated first and foremost by getting a lot of no's, trying to do the more interning route. I tried to intern at GCI, which is a very major hip hop station, R&B and hip hop station here in Chicago. So with that being said, the type of person I am, I'm like, oh, okay, it's a no. Okay, but bet, I'll do my own thing then. Fine. So that was in 2007. I had, decided to that I wanted to start my own like talk show. And I'm like, okay, I know nothing about camera work. I don't have a camera. I don't have anything. Like, where do I start this journey? So, and maybe we'll touch on this later, but like manifestation is real. So, yeah, let's just start. Let me just start there because I literally laid down on my bed and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to start this, but whatever universe, God, wherever you see me, to fulfill this, whatever path you see me going down, holla at your girl, basically. So I ended up meeting another through a mutual friend, another young lady at the time who was, she went to Columbia. She had a little bit of, you know, um, experience in it, and she had, a background at Columbia and a background, and she had a camera, so she had all of the, tools that I needed. So we decided to partner, and from that for about 4 years, her and I worked together. And then in 2011, we decided to split and go our separate ways. And I was at a crossroads because I'm like, okay, I've been loving this. Now what? Like, how am I going to do this on my own? So in 2011, I would actually say that that's like my rebirth, birth, or re-anniversary, or however you want to say it, because I literally had to rebrand myself. Yeah. And I still, I didn't even really kind of know at that time, but you'll be able to probably tell I've had um like with my branding, I wasn't so sure, like, is that what I want? I'm always like changing like the logo or something, and you'll see the transition
Yeah.
throughout the time, because I when I started it, I was having this discussion with my boyfriend last night about when I started. I was just starting as, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it on my own. There was no like, I wanted to turn this into a business for me. It was just like, this is what I want to do. Let me figure out how to do it. And I was just learning as I go, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so 2011, I decided to start my own thing, went back to school for a little bit to make sure I'm doing this all right. And here we are, almost 20 grand later. It's like having to spend the 20 grand, but figuring it, like, I found out, okay, yeah, I was doing it right. But the good thing about me spending that money for school was the contacts. I think that was really valuable, because when I went to school, uh, I was, people that were our teachers were actually in radio and actually doing things on the TV side. So then that got my foot in the door, working at iHeartMedia, in the traffic world. So I was the traffic anchor on a lot of their radio stations here in Chicago. But ultimately, I knew radio was not what I wanted to do. It was just something to get me in the door, at least, right?
Right.
So for several years, I fought my way to figure out how I'm going to get on TV. Even if there was a quick opportunity to get on TV, whether that was, being on TV1, commentating on their show, Fatal Attraction, or doing lifestyle segments here in Chicago on news stations. I just wanted that exposure. I wanted that practice of being in front of the camera, presenting something, talking, being personable. And I had that. So while I was working at the radio station, I found other ways to immerse myself in television or being in front of the camera. That also included me, being a contributor for Chicago Now. So
Yeah.
I was able to interview along the way, while I'm in school. Jill Scott, I got an interview with Jill Scott while I'm still in school. People are like, what? How did this girl get that? Or, um, you know, just different opportunities of being able to, cover the Chicago Film Festival. I currently am now still on that quest to have a show here in Chicago that is very entertainment and lifestyle focused.
What is something that people may not know about you and they would be surprised to know?
Oh, this is a good question. So I feel like I put it out there that I'm silly, but I just don't know how silly people know that I am. Like, I think about the times I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I this goofy? And I would say that it comes across, especially in the Chicago, with the Chicago Med Fire PD cast. I tried to, that was the thing that eventually, that I said, you know what, I'm gonna try something different, because I'm on this carpet. In the first year I went, everybody's, they're asking the same question, and it's
What can we
this,
expect for this season?
yeah, and it's this very serious, like, your character. And I'm thinking, if you are a true fan of this freaking show.
Mm-hmm.
And I put myself in like people that I've like, you know, was a fan of, or like was like, oh, I really like his music or whatever. And I don't want to know the typical, I mean, yeah, we can get to that. Your album's dropping. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. But like, yeah, I want to know the stuff like, do you like popcorn or pizza? You know, like that type of stuff. And I said, for me, it was very imperative that I um, not only showed my side, but also gave those fans nuggets of information about their favorite character on the show that they necessarily wouldn't get from E! News over there. That's gonna just do this, you know, fluffy, just like it's always going to be very rigid, in my opinion,
Right.
when I watch those, unless they're like on the set or something like that. But so that's what I tried to do, and it was. I would say I think people know from that. Um, that was a little, you know, something, but there's so many other things. I mean, yes, I started incorporating cooking on my channel, but I love to cook, like literally love to cook. Okay, like
Too.
love it. We'd be over here throwing down. You know, uh, no, I think people know I don't really like being tall, but that's not like a personality thing. That's more like a physicality thing. So let's take that one out. But yeah, I'd probably say silly.
Yeah.
That's the most that I can think of, because my mom's always like, "You're so silly, Nick. You're so silly," and I literally, I don't know if people know that. It's not until you're like around me and you're around me all day, and then you see and you're like, okay, she is just so silly, because I'm a sucker for laughing. I love to laugh. So like I'm always gonna find some way that I can make this funny for me and for other people around me, or you know, whatever the situation may be. So I would say that.
And we need that. We need the funny, the silly, the laughing type of content out there. I mean, I kind of got that from you, that you have a silly side to you. I mean, I kind of saw that when I was watching an interview with you, Jesse Lee Soffer, and Tracy Spiridakos on during some, I forget what event it was, but it was definitely with all the one Chicago shows. And Jesse, I think Jesse said he's like, should we just talk about the show? Like, we got this new beautiful character on here.
No.
Like, he's like, no, like, and you said, you know, everybody always asks these same questions. You get asked these same questions all the time, you know. What can we expect from your character going forward? How do you think Jay Halstead has evolved? And it's like, you know, you're right. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I look at those interviews sometimes, and I get bored. I'm like, okay, we already know who Jay Halstead is. We know where he's going. We know who Hank Boy is. We know where Jesse McGay is probably going with this character. We know. You know, I like knowing the fun and the quirky and the silly stuff about celebrities, because you don't see that side of them. You only
Mhm.
see like the professional side of them, which leads me to my next question. So, you know, how do you prepare for red carpet, celebrity interviews on a scale of 1 to 10? You know, I know there's probably a little bit of nervousness from time to time, even though you by now you're probably like, oh, I'm ready for this. I'm excited for this. I'm ready to do this. But on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your nervousness like in a good way? But you know, how do you prepare for these interviews and these events?
So every event is different. Every interview is different, because I mean, of course, you know, you have a different person that's coming before you. I think the way that I prepare is, although each person that I'm interviewing is different, I need to remain the same, and I need to remain consistent to me. So, you're still going to get that element of like, like, let's try to make this more of a conversation. I'm not, uh, I'm not a detective here. I'm not playing on PD. I'm not trying to interrogate you.
Yeah.
you know, and so I definitely try to find that thing that is going to make that celebrity laugh or smile along with me. It may be a little harder because of time constrictions, but I definitely do that. So I'm researching before my interviews, just like a journalist should and would. I am trying to figure out what what can I do different this time that I may, that I didn't do in the last interview. So I always kind of look back at my interviews, but even though it's kind of cringy,
Yeah.
um
I know what you mean.
and cringy in the fact of like, oh, I don't like seeing myself, why is my mouth doing that,
Yeah.
or why did I, make that ugly face. So but I do look back just to see like sometimes technique, or there may be an interview that like I'm like, oh wow, I really like the way that I handled that interview.
Yeah.
And then there's some interviews, if you go down and you're going outside of the Chicago, Med Fire PD, and I'm doing a musician or it just really depends on the person, because I may be hella tired and I'm not as silly in this interview. I'm more serious and talking and blah 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 blah. It depends on the relationship that I have with that person.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, it's so crazy. I feel as though and I've said this to Nick. um I'm like, I feel like you bring out this silly side of me every time I see him on the set of Chicago Med, or doing some type of interviews. I'm like, something about you activates silly girl. I don't know what it is. And so, it's so funny for me sometimes to hear the comments from people like, oh, she has a crush on him. Or I'm like, y'all, I have a whole boyfriend like over here. And y'all just like made up a whole scenario for me and this person. I, now, like, I'm not going to be rude. I mean, yes, he's an attractive male, but good God, I don't want to jump everyone's bones. I get
Right, right.
on the red carpet. Um, but honestly, like, yeah, I also feed off the energy of said person I'm interviewing too. I feel like I'm a really good energy reader. Such a weird thing to say, but yeah. Um, so I think that's pretty much my preparation. It's not intense.
Yeah.
It's very chill, because I'm not really one to write down full out questions. I'm mostly writing down like talking points. Okay,
Right.
we're going to touch on this, we're going to touch on that. Just because that it works for me better. To me, it just flows.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I would say between researching and makeup and stuff, clothes, trying to
Yeah.
figure out what I'm going to wear. Um, but I do want to touch on at one point you said nerves. So I go back and forth with this with my boyfriend, because he thinks he's like, because I tell him like every time I do an interview, I sweat. I'm not sweating right now. But like when it comes time to, um, doing like celebrity interviews, but I feel like I'm sweating because there's so much to get, like set up. Got to get the lights, got to get the camera, got to get the mic, got to test the mic. It's a lot of, you know, it's kind of like the moment of like when I was a news anchor and we're about to go live, and I'm just okay, trying to move and get it all right. And technology may not work, and now my mic's not working, and 5 4, and I'm like, oh,
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. But I don't honestly, I feel that I don't get nervous,
Okay.
but others would say, oh, well, you're sweating or your mouth is dry, that's nerves. And I'm like, well, it's not nerves, I'm legitimately freaking thirsty right now, I've been sweating. I would probably say the last time that I knew I was nervous and I felt the nerves, and I knew for hands down it was when I appeared on the Dr. Phil show. That moment was, I was nervous.
Yes.
But interviewing celebs, for me, no, because it's just like they're, even though they may be at a higher echelon than me, I still feel like you're a person. So like,
Right, right.
nervous for what? To talk to you? No.
Yeah.
And um I personally, whatever anybody else does, that's on them. But I personally don't want to show that nervousness, because them on the receiving end, if they're an energy reader, they're going to be able to pick up on that.
Right.
And I don't, that's not a, that's not an, a thing that I want them to see. I don't really want Oprah to see me sweat. I want
Right.
Oprah to see me and be like, oh, okay, she can handle herself with a big dog like me. Yes, ma'am. Like so.
Yes.
So yeah, no, I don't think nervousness enters in for me.
How important is representation? And what does that mean to you as a journalist and as a reporter and as a Black woman? What does representation mean to you?
It's funny enough because I was talking about this representation a couple of days ago, and um, me, growing up and watching TV, and how, um, I watch shows now, and how it really alters your mind, right? So you're growing up, you're watching these shows about um, a black man is always bad, and the cops are always wrestling them down and shooting at them on TV,
Mm.
right? um so then when it happens in real life, we become desensitized to it. And I don't want to say desensitized, but I would say more accepting of it,
Mhm.
when that shouldn't be,
Yeah.
honestly. And so actually I was, I don't know if you watched the new Netflix show Squid Game, but it was very interesting because the main character is Korean, or it was in Korea that this took place. And I had said and looked over to my boyfriend. I said, um it's kind of interesting that they made this Korean man a piece of shit. Like, as a father, he wasn't really responsible. He wasn't, there's times where it's like, what is this dude doing? Like, he had a very bad gambling problem, because you always see, it's always kind of in the media to paint a black man as a bad father, you
Mm.
know so I do find representation to be extremely important,
Yeah.
um, for young minds, because it does shape your bias.
Yep.
It shapes the way that you treat others, whether it be subconsciously, or, or like, what is it? Or um like you're not conscious of that you're doing it.
Mhm.
um but it definitely shapes that um whether it be your stereotype that you have against a certain person, whether it be a bias, whether it be the way that you treat other people. And to me, uh, being a Black woman, it is frustrating that what particularly sells is we got to be doing this and we have to be and just so and extra and catty and fighty and uh, a Black woman like you and I that may be a little bit more I don't even know what the word is for it,
Reserved.
reserved or more classy, not to give listen, I'm not downing anyone. I'm just saying what it is and what I feel that that is looked at as a negative, like, or I'm not getting, casted because I'm not doing the sister girl
Right.
act, playing into that stereotype.
Right.
Um, and so it's frustrating because it's like, well, where can I see a, a a Black woman that's chocolate like me, that speak was taught to speak properly, or I don't even yeah, it's so convoluted, but you know what I'm saying. And so that's why Issa Rae, I love her. I love what she's doing, for the culture. I love her show. I love how she is going off of that narrative that all Black women are, like that. So I like that show, and I like what she's doing. Not only is representation important visually of what we see and consume every day, but I tell some of these, or there's discourse that I have on Twitter, and that I see other journalists have as well, that some of the onus needs to be on these celebrities because they want representation and they want to be able to work in a diverse environment and get opportunities as a Black woman, but then when it comes time and you or I are asking for an interview, it's a no because we're not Essence, or we're not a white publication. So I think that if we were all working in tandem, it could happen. But like us, and this is why I give so much respect to Halle Berry, because I got an interview with her, Halle freaking Berry, and I've seen time and time again how she knows that these red carpets are set up for all the Black media outlets to be at the end of the carpet and we don't have no more time.
Yep.
And I've seen video proof of her saying, I need to talk to my sisters and brothers, like for real.
Mm-hmm.
But there are not a lot of people that will do that. And it's not just on the red carpet in front of cameras. It's when I'm putting out a request, Kevin Hart, to your white publicist that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you've been on Ellen 50 gajillion times. Try something new. Try a new platform. You don't know how that little bit can really elevate that next person into being and having or providing representation for other people behind them.
Right. Right.
So yeah, representation is so important, and I wish we could all, get on the same accord, kind of work in tandem with it, so that there's so many different Black folks out there, different types, and then we're not all in this stereotypical little box. And so I hope there will be a day where, we can all get that together.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Representation, it is so important. Um, and not just visually, of course, but also it's important but behind the scenes wise, I mean, um I know it continues to be a controversial thing where not enough, not just actors and actresses, but not enough Black creators for the Oscars, the Academy Awards, are being nominated
Mm-hmm.
for their work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's it's like, when someone is nominated, or when an actor or actress is nominated,
It's for a slave movie.
they just, that, or they think, oh, this is just enough. It's like, no, no, you got to do a little bit more, because believe it or not, yes, I mean, it's Black creators matter as well. It's not so much, yeah, seeing the actor on camera, that's important. I mean, that's important too.
Mm-hmm.
And that that's something that, you never know, a young Black male could be looking at, or a young Black female could be looking at, and that be their drive to someday be be like a Kevin Hart, or be like a Halle Berry. But it's definitely um non-visual, what goes on behind the scenes, that's important. um I know for me, when I was working at my first news station, um it was very encouraging for me to know that I wasn't the only Black writer or producer that was there. There was one other, there was actually, there were two other Black people that were there. And one was a producer, another one was a sports anchor. And then when I went to my next news station, there was, more Black creators, producers, editors, um, I forget what they call, graphic designers, just somebody behind the scenes that, help make a difference in that industry for me. And even right now, as we sit here and talk, um, I feel like, again, you never know who this episode could reach. You never know, especially on YouTube. We were just talking about how big YouTube is, and how many kids are saying now they want to grow up to be a YouTuber.
Right.
You don't know how many young Black girls are probably going to see this episode, see this video, and it's going to make them feel empowered, like, hey, I want to do that. Mom, Dad, I want to host my own podcast. Mom, Dad, I want to be a producer. I want to be an entertainment reporter, or I want to be a doctor. I want to do this. Um, but I think representation is so, so important, especially for women as well. Um, people may not like it, but shit, I'm still on cloud nine about Madam Vice President. Okay. I am
Mm-hmm.
still on that cloud nine, because that is big. Looking at the timeline in our history books of all the vice presidents that have been in our
Mm-hmm.
history books, and now you see a woman, a Black woman that's there. I mean, shit, Hillary couldn't even get in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I like
No.
Hillary, not trying to not trying to bad talk. I like Hillary, but I was like, damn, she couldn't even get in, but they got Kamala in, they got Madam Vice President in. So,
Right.
representation, it really does matter, visually and behind the scenes wise. It's all important. So, thank you for discussing that question with me. Before
Of
I let
course.
you go, I know you say you're cutting back a little bit from social media, but wherever you're on, where can people follow you to keep up with you and just kind of keep in touch with you and the loop?
Yes, absolutely. So I would love, love, love if people can definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just type in Nekia Nichelle. I am there. Please check out some of the videos, share them, like them, comment. I do try to kind of engage with YouTube comments as long as they're not negative. Also to Twitter at Nekia Nichelle is where you can find me. Instagram, same thing, and Facebook, I am Nekia Nichelle. I do again try to come on and and respond back because there's some really nice comments that people leave me.
Yeah.
So I definitely try to engage. You know, but I get busy, and I get like, oh God, I don't feel like going on social media. I actually feel like I need to hire. I did hire someone to handle my social media for a little bit because I just needed that break. But I feel like I want like someone that is actually here curating content for me or helping me figure out content to curate so that I can be more engaging. But and check out my website, NikiaNichelle.com. I have lots of, the same videos and articles and things of that nature on there too. So those are the places where you can catch me. I think I covered them all. Yeah.
Well, all right, ladies, you heard her. Go ahead and follow her on her Instagram, Twitter. Please subscribe to her YouTube channel. I'm already subscribed there and I love her content. You'll love it too. Gentlemen, as well, if you're watching, I do know that I have a few, male listeners as well. Shout out to the few of you. I really appreciate your support. So please follow Miss Nekia Nichelle. And Nekia, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon for this episode of Extraordinary Women. It was a pleasure speaking
Thank you
with
for
you.
having me. I really, really appreciate it. And congratulations on all the things that you are accomplishing. Becoming a mom, that's huge. That's very huge. Don't let anyone try to, take that moment away from you. And, just all the things that you're accomplishing on your own. You know, I love to see, well, first of all, I was very flattered that, you watched my stuff and I've been a little bit of an inspiration to you. So I want to just, I hope this conversation has helped you in some type of way. And I do hope that it helps others. It's very well needed. Um, and whatever you decide to do, I think that you're already on the right step in the right track with taking the reign, the what are they taking the bull by the horn.
But by the horn, yeah.
And like, you know, um, creating your own destiny, because that's ultimately like what it's all about, is your happiness, and do what you dream and want to do. Fulfill your dreams.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And same to you. Please keep going. Please keep pushing. I appreciate you for doing everything that you're doing and continue to strive for that greatness and that show. When that show happens, girl, I'll be there. I'll be there at the launch. I will be there in the audience whenever this COVID thing ends and we can all go back to having live audience shows, which I miss seeing them. I mean, I think they're still doing just a little bit, but
They are doing them, girl. They doing not a little bit. They're full fledged on football. I didn't see football games packed. I'm like, what am I in a dream?
But yes, I will be there when your show launches. I will definitely be there. I'm flying out to Chicago. I'm gonna bring my little baby with me.
Bring your baby.
We both gonna be out there watching you and celebrating you. So thank you so much. Please keep going, girl. And ladies, please return next week for another episode of Extraordinary Women. I hope to see you all there. Thanks again for joining me this afternoon. I'll see you ladies next week. All new episodes of Extraordinary Women air every Monday right here on YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe to all 3 platforms so you don't miss a thing. And remember, ladies, keep on thriving.